What is going on with Pack Nation? Hope everybody's doing well. So excited to get rolling here for this live stream. As once again, we definitely did have an exciting and championship filled weekend here for In-State Athletics, and actually pretty much a 24-day period. So, obviously we're excited to get this thing rolling, try and break it all down. Obviously, also got a lot coming up here this week we got to talk about as well. So, but first of all, again, two AC championships, women's basketball and wrestling. So it's. I think we've said this plenty of times, but it just seems like it keeps on adding to itself. The point that there's really has not been a better time to be an NC State fan than it has been, especially this year. Really, it's been
Yeah.
unbelievable to say the least.
Yeah, I feel like everybody is totally getting overshadowed by men's basketball, but you've won you're starting to build like a dynasty a little bit with women's basketball and wrestling, and I probably can officially kind of start to say that, and then with swimming and women's tennis and men's tennis having some big wins lately, and football, obviously, it's just pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So so I know Ted Carreras, who's on here with us, is a big time wrestling fan. Don't worry, Ted. We're going to be talking some wrestling today. But first of all, again, I do want to kind of jump into the main wins, which obviously got to start with women's basketball. Obviously, first of all, I think it stands out a lot that in 3 games we played in the AC tournament that we won every single game by at least 13 points. I know obviously we didn't face, the Notre Dame, we didn't face the Louisville, but at the end of the day, Miami, I know that, we put out there that we were actually a 16.5 point favorite over Miami, which I think that was, kind of like a huge eye opener. Like, really? Like, I know that, there's no doubt from if you didn't know like the story about these two teams before that game, that would maybe make sense. But with the fact that Miami was coming off of beating Louisville, beating Notre Dame, it was like, they're going to be playing, with a lot of passion there. So, and hey, Michael, obviously, if we were to bet, with that thought in mind, it would have paid, but hey, just like you
Y'all
said,
didn't
bad
gamble any of
karma.
these games, did you? Did y'all gamble in some of these games?
Absolutely not. No. But we're just talking more on a in a
Hypothetical?
hypothetical perspective.
Totally
Exactly.
hypothetical, yeah.
No, but you're right on though, because Miami first quarter they came out and gave us their best shot. Ultimately it seemed like 3 games in 3 days, and just the depth we have warm out at the end. But yeah, that first half was very, very competitive.
Yep. Well, and literally, Greg and I, when we were sitting at the wrestling tournament, I literally leaned over to him and during the second quarter and said, if we go to halftime with the lead, we're going to win the game. Like, there's no way that between depth and also how strong we are coming out of halftime, there's just no way we're going to lose that game. Obviously, for Reina to hit that 3 right at the buzzer, give us a 9-point lead, I'm like, yeah, no, it's over. Just, so, but, it was good to see us pull it out. So, one of the conversations I wanted to jump into, is first of all, I know that, one of the big conversations right now is, first of all, South Carolina losing was definitely a kind of like a head throwbacker, like, whoa, okay, South Carolina lost. Now, I think that, and I know Greg and I were talking, so I want to ask, you, Michael, making with us, here, live on a live stream, do you think there's any discussion of South Carolina not being the number 1 overall seed?
You can take it first.
Any discussion of South Carolina not being? No, they're number 1 because they were number 1, right? Yeah, and they lost in a title game. They're still going to be number 1.
Yeah.
To me, the more interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I get where you're going, but the one thing I will say is the AP poll came out today and has South Carolina 1. I know that still doesn't mean anything when it comes to selection committee, but just saying. So, but yeah, now the big conversation, go ahead, Greg.
No, I was going to say they're number 1, but if you look at the first place votes, it has shifted some. They were pretty much getting all of the votes all year. I think it was think Stanford got either 11 or 17, and we actually got 2 this time. So that's the first time we've gotten some votes in a while.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
it is shifting, but not enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the more. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, probably not, but I mean, it definitely. There's definitely a chance. But with Stanford winning, if anything, I think they would put Stanford 1, South Carolina 2, and keep us at 3. So it really doesn't. It really doesn't change
interesting.
much
We
in the
have
end.
common opponents though. I mean, there's 3 common opponents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think. I think it'd be unfair to keep State at 3. I mean, and they've. I don't know. I think State at least should go up to 2. But
Really?
I do. I mean, they won a title. They won a title.
Well, but so does
and
Stanford.
they did it in convincing fashion. So
And the ACC is a much better conference from top to bottom than the Pac-12. I'm sorry,
Correct.
it
For
is.
sure. Yeah.
Well,
definitely.
Because I was looking at it too. So just to give everybody a little bit of context, so we're both 28-3, and Stanford lost to number 25 Texas 56-61. They lost to South Florida, number 18 South Florida 57-54, and they lost to South Carolina 65-61. So but Greg talked about common opponents. So the 3 of us, we played 3 teams. We played Maryland, we both played Indiana, and we both played South Carolina. South Carolina, though, I mean, you give Stanford the edge because they barely lost at South Carolina, while we lost to South Carolina at home. Maryland
Injuries.
Well, that too.
True.
And then Maryland, they beat them handily, 86-68, and we beat them 78-60. So we both beat them handily. And then
what points in the
Indiana,
season were those matches too?
Early.
Early.
yeah, early. So the Maryland and the Indiana were in November, and we played Maryland in November, and we played Indiana in early December. So roughly the same time. South Carolina, they played in December, late December. We played first game of the year. So again, I really do say, honestly, it's a toss up. I think it's a total toss up between us and Stanford of being the number 2 seed. And the reason I really, really, really want the number 2 seed is honestly because I want to stay away from Connecticut. Not necessarily not because we're scared of them, but because I don't want to see them until the Final Four. If I can help it, specifically because I don't want to get paired up with them in the Hartford regional, which is, I mean, definitely a possibility. So
then who? To me, the more intriguing question is who should be the 4th 1 seed.
Baylor.
Baylor at this point.
I think it should be, like I mentioned. I texted you guys I was
you did.
very quick. I mean, I just thought South Carolina losing, I think, also helped push them down. Who I'm talking about Louisville. Louisville losing early, like they just haven't earned a 1 seed.
Yeah.
They just haven't. I mean,
doesn't Baylor still have their conference tournament? I think they haven't played theirs yet. I know the Big East hasn't played theirs yet.
But what do they have to do? Win one game, and that's better than Louisville.
Yeah, I mean that you're making valid points. I'm just saying,
right.
Do they have to win to get the 1, or win 1 or 2? Get to a semifinal, final.
That's a fair question,
and that's what pushes them over. I think the argument can be made either way, but I will say Louisville's losses, the way that they've lost convincingly not convincingly, they lost after having a convincing lead. Yeah. So I think that's gonna be something like 1 seeds close out games, and Louisville blew 2 14-point leads. Actually, it was 16 at one point in the 4th quarter against Miami, and then 14 against us. So number 1 seeds close games out, and so that could be the argument the other way.
Yeah. Now, I mean, obviously, like Baylor, they lost to unranked Kansas State by 9. So,
and we blew them out.
Yeah. So,
let me ask you this question. Sorry.
Go for it.
Has UConn played in their tournament?
No, they start this week.
So in my opinion, what I could see envisioning actually happening is Louisville falling to the 6th spot. I could see them falling there because I was like, that sounds about right. Like they've done great this season, but other teams have a better postseason run than them. Louisville lost game 1. They've kind of choked their way to the end of the season, and I wouldn't call them. Are they really the best number 2 team? I wouldn't say they are. So I think 6 is fitting if UConn wins and Baylor wins a game each. I think that's probably fair.
And don't forget that the committee will take into consideration Connecticut's injury to their star.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Page
Good point, good point.
Pickers. Yep.
Yeah.
And also go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say, and it's like it may seem silly to discuss who's gonna be the overall number 1 seed, but when you get down to like the Elite Eight and the Final Four, the matchups are important because the 4th 1 seed plays the first 2 seed, so you're really playing. You really have an advantage getting a higher 1 seed.
Yep. And because one of the things too that really plays a lot too, and why I could make a case that South Carolina maybe doesn't deserve the 1 seed, even though they will deserve it. Then their record, their resume this year is unbelievable for sure. So they're not good, but definitely I think for us, that they lost to 2 unranked teams. We lost to 3 ranked teams. And also too, the fact that the one win that they have over us was the first game of the year, and we were playing without Jada Boyd. And not that the committee would look at it like this, but also too, there's no doubt that Diamond Johnson was just not even clicking with us at that point either. Like it was just literally just Diamond Johnson just figuring out what the heck am I supposed to be doing on the court.
Right.
So that's the only thing I would say. But again, that's the only thing I could say about them. But yeah, no, they're going to be the 1 seed. So there's no question about that. But it should be fun. It should be interesting to see what give a little bit of context too, because one of the things that again keep in mind of, which is a possible case scenario, is that the regionals this year are preset. Every single year the regionals are preset. So when you get to the top Sweet 16, there's 4 regionals. 4 teams go to each regional, and basically it's based on whoever has the higher seed gets dibs on whichever location is closer. So 1 is in Greensboro, North Carolina this year. 1's in Hartford, Connecticut. So if South Carolina goes number 1, then South Carolina would pick Greensboro, and then that means we would go to Hartford, Connecticut. So we don't.
It's actually
want
Bridgeport. It's Bridgeport.
Connecticut. Sorry, I thought it was Hartford, Connecticut.
It's okay. No, it's okay. It usually is Hartford.
Yeah.
So what would it take for us to beat out South Carolina at this point? No, I'm kidding.
It's not. It's not.
There's
joking.
nothing else.
Unless there's a major investigation where the South Carolina.
Anybody have any dirt on their coach?
Yeah, right.
No, I love Don Staley. I gotta respect Don Staley, and it was cool. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so honestly, where do you want to be though as a state fan? So this is where you have to weigh your fandom over chances of winning a championship, because number 2 is not going to Bridgeport. They're going out to Spokane. So okay as a fan, we're not going to travel to Spokane very well. But if it's Bridgeport, you got a chance.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there just as a fun conversation. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would want to go probably, I don't know. You're splitting hairs when you're talking. When you want to win a national championship, you want to beat the best. So line them up and let's go. So I would prefer to go to Bridgeport as a fan, just so we can have a well-represented fan base there to cheer the team on.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's just something to talk about. That's all.
Yeah. No, I mean
that would mean we're the 3rd overall seed, right?
Right. Correct. 3 goes to Bridgeport. Yep. And 4 goes to Wichita.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So again, I think it really just comes down to, again, because one of the things that I put on Twitter saying, that somebody asked me, are you cheering for Louisville or are you cheering for Miami? And I made the point saying that no state fan should want Louisville to win, because at the end of the day, I want the easier matchup. Now, by me saying that, does that mean that that we are scared of Louisville? Absolutely not. But again, it's just a matter of the end of the day, we want the championship trophy to come home with us. Now, barring injury, which is one thing that, in the back of my mind, I would have rathered Elizabeth Kitley to play, because, in the back of a lot of Virginia Tech's minds, it's like, man, if we would have had Kitley, we could have.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely would have given us a fight for sure with Kitley. But if it's just a matter of team healthy versus team healthy, then yeah, of course I want the better team to lose, because sure, I'll take it. So it's a matter of that. Again, it's not that I'm scared of playing UConn, but I'm just saying that I know that they're going to be a tough matchup. Especially with Paige coming back, they're going to be a really tough matchup. And we have goals this year. We want to get to the 2nd Final Four in program history. We want to make it to maybe the first ever national championship game in program history. And I know that in order to do that, the later we face UConn, the better chances that is. That's all that's saying.
I would disagree. I actually wanted to play Louisville because it probably would have helped our seeding getting to a number 2. beating another top 5 team.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But again, just like you said, splitting hairs, it's splitting hairs.
You are.
I would have rather taken home the championship trophy than risk
Sure.
being a 2 over a 3, so
Sure.
so that's really it. But I hear you what you mean. So but and to touch point here, I know we kind of haven't really touched much on chat yet because we jumped right into this fun conversation. But it seems like Hunter Smith is 100% agreeant with us so far, so appreciate that.
Who's this Kathy Smith? Is she have any relation to anybody?
I know, to give everybody a little context. So again, I'm sure for those who saw us on the wrestling TV, but it was me, and then Greg was to my right, and my wife was to my left, and we were watching the South Carolina game. Oh man, there's
no way. Now Ashley's on here.
She's got nothing. I just want to know: is she wearing black today? Is she wearing black today?
Yeah. No, she was wearing an Elon shirt today, actually. So
see, she can't rep her own team after a loss. Come on, get out of here. Get out of here.
No. It's so we were saying that, oh man, she should be on, because Greg was lighting her up, man. It was, and I was laughing my butt off. So, but yeah, poor thing. And because one point I want to make is
now he stands up for her.
Is that literally at one point I turned over to her and was like, oh man, South Carolina's up by 5, they're gonna lose, and and laughing, but then they actually did end up losing. It's like, oh my god. So
it would have been great to have a time lapse camera on her for watching that game, because it was. I know she was running through all the emotions.
I mean, they were up 12 with 9 minutes left.
Yeah,
and they didn't score a single point.
Yeah.
My wife said, "Hey, I didn't pack my Gamecock shirt, but I will tomorrow just for you, Greg."
Yeah, excuses.
Just for you, Greg.
Excuses.
Hey, no. Again, I just want to say
they're still going to be number one.
They're going to be number one. They're going to be number one. Don't worry.
That didn't hurt. But good. Hey, good for Kentucky, man. First SEC championship in 40 years. Like you root for stuff like that, no matter where your allegiance is. It's great to see programs like that, and see some new blood. And at the end of the day, it makes women's basketball much better, because for so many years it was 1 or 2 teams dominated the whole field, and so now you're starting to see some parity, which makes it exciting for folks to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So again, we'll definitely see what happens with that. I think Selection Sunday is next Sunday. Am I correct?
Yep. Same as the men's.
Same as men's. Yeah.
So now we'll jump into wrestling, our other AC championship yesterday. So I think in-state wrestling pretty much handled VT and the rest of the class easily. I think won by over 20 points. Had 4 individual ACC titles with Trent Hidley, Jacob Camacho, Ed Scott, and Tariq Wilson. So hats off to all 4 of them, and congrats on that. And again, also too, one other thing I want to say is that every single one of our wrestlers in all 10 weight classes got at least 3rd place or better. So, and crazy. That's, I don't know if we've ever done that as a program. I mean, that, because I know that every single weight class that there was, that over the years, there was always usually maybe 1 or 2 weight classes where we were kind of more like flip-flopping people in. It was just kind of like we're not really strong here. But literally every single weight class, we had somebody that we were confident in and was competitive every single week in ACC matchups, which is huge. It says a lot about a program, because there's only maybe 4 or 5 programs in the whole country that could say that we are competitive at every single weight class. So it just speaks a lot about the program that Popolizio and Coach Hall are building. That's really what that screams out to me. But
actually, I would say build at this point. I wouldn't even say building. We're established at this point.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason why I say still building is because I would say built when we win our first team national championship.
That's fair.
We do that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. When we do that. But again, we're heading there. We're right there with, we should have beaten Iowa. We're right there. Penn State is really ridiculously good this year, so I doubt anybody's going to beat Penn State this year, but you never know. It'll be interesting NCAA matchup. And I know that Hayden Hidley, one of the things we were talking about is, unfortunately, again, he lost to Mekhi Lewis in the semifinals. But now he's got a chip on his, because Mekhi Lewis and Clay Lau, because to kind of get everybody in perspective. So literally in the same weight class, ACC has 3 of the top 8 wrestlers in that weight class in the entire country. So, it just speaks a lot in terms of how strong the weight class is in the ACC. And now Hayden has got a chip on his shoulder against Clay Loud, who pinned him in the UNC matchup, and then now Mekhi Lewis beat him in the ACC championship to prevent him from being a 5-time ACC champion. Which I want to say, there's never been a 5-time ACC champion wrestler. There's never been a 5-time conference champion wrestler ever.
Right.
It's never happened. Because I actually confirmed that with Machiavelli yesterday. I was talking to him. I was like, "Is it possible to win a championship while redshirting?" He's like, "No, it's not possible. There's no way you can do that." So yeah, I mean, again, it just it prevented a little bit of history for sure. But hey, if it leads to him maybe winning his first national championship, then hey, we'll take it, right? That's kind of my thoughts on it.
For sure.
So
Definitely.
Eye on the bigger prize.
Exactly. So, but yeah, so basically how that works is, so I think here probably this week they'll release the seeding once all the conference championships are done, and then the NCAA tournament starts on not this coming Friday, but the Friday after. So during the NCAA's first round, the wrestling championships will be going on as well. So definitely make sure to tune in for that, y'all, and definitely make sure, again, it should be on ESPN, one of the ESPNs, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that. So we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, though, so now that we've touched on the 2 ACC championships, which were awesome this past weekend, got to talk a little bit here. Got to talk a little bit about the bad. So baseball, unfortunately, has now lost 4 games in a row after losing its first to 9. After getting swept Northeastern and handed, I mean, it wasn't even close, honestly. It was pretty bad. And I mean, obviously, like it was a bad, you knew it was going to be bad when Sam Highfill, who's, I mean, our best pitcher, probably, I mean, definitely one of the best pitchers in the country, gave up 4 runs in the first inning alone on Friday. And that was immediately like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, and I think that pretty much was obviously what ended up being kind of a heads up for what's to come. So, Macon, I know, I haven't heard much from you here in a minute or two, but so what were your initial thoughts? I mean, from my perspective, I wouldn't read too much into it necessarily yet. I mean, there's still a lot of baseball left to be played, but it definitely was like a head scratcher for us starting off so hot to going so cold so quickly.
I just
your mic went out.
Audio.
come back to me.
Yep, you got it.
Oh, there you go.
There
So
you go. Yeah, because you got me now.
Yep.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool. So what I was going to say was that it just came back to cloud. They just came back down from cloud 9. I definitely, I kind of glanced at the stat sheet with there. I think there were a lot of errors in these losses too, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's partly, I think, comes with being early in the season. Those guys will figure it out. I don't know how much better Northeastern is than the other competition we've had. It just may be a bad week for us. We've had obviously some awesome weeks so far. So I don't know how much to take away from it. It was just you've seen already the best of state.
Yeah,
You've seen
really.
arguably probably the lowest.
Hopefully.
I don't know if it's the worst, but you've seen a poor outings from NC State, pretty poor outings. And it's okay. Now you can, if you're Avent, you have seen the polar opposite ends of what your team is, and you can work with that. So if you're operating all cylinders all the time, that's great. But then you're kind of curious what you really have to work on. So I think they know. I think it's defense and pitching, which is still defense, I guess. But
yeah. One other point too, which I want to make as well, is that JT Jarrett, if I'm not mistaken, still has not come back from his hamstring injury yet. So, but Michael, any points to add on that?
I mean, that definitely hurts. He's one of the leaders on the team. I mean, not just talent wise, but like leadership wise. Sometimes you need somebody. Now, I'm not saying there hasn't been, obviously, because we haven't been in the dugout. But sometimes you need somebody in the dugout to get the team focused and right. And maybe JT Jarrett's that guy, and maybe that's what's been missing, or maybe like Macon said, maybe it's just kind of a regression to the mean there.
Yeah. Greg?
Yeah, if it's just mental errors that are causing the physical errors, that can be cleaned up. Just remember, let's not get too far into this. We just reached the 1/5 mark of the season, so let's put that in perspective, okay? And remember, we didn't have the greatest start last year, and look what we did. And again, 2 different seasons, but to put it in perspective, there's plenty of time. You're going to get into the ACC schedule starting this weekend with Notre Dame, and you're going to find out real quickly because you're going to step up in competition. Before that we have UNCG, which is a great. We've had problems with them in the past, so it's a good midweek team to play, and then we'll figure it out next weekend with Notre Dame coming to town.
And because one thing too is it could not have been perfect timing, and Megan, I'll get back to you. But it could not be more perfect timing, possibly as well. Just like you said, before ACC matchups, because that's really where it all starts. Then if you take care of ACC, then you're putting yourself in a great position, especially this year. The ACC is really tough this year. But also too, on top of it, not necessarily saying that we want to be like this school, but I've just seen it so many times because obviously I pay so much attention to this school. But how many times is UNC baseball? Years I could point to years consistently where UNC will lose like these terrible series to start off the season. It's like, you lost to them, really? And then they would end up winning the ACC or going to Omaha or whatever. And I'm saying that because I know them, because I've followed them, but I know that that's happened all over the country. It happens, so Macon, go ahead, brother.
He's frozen.
Oh, okay. So we'll come back to him, but yeah, no. So again, I think we're all on the same page here. It's definitely like a head scratcher. Definitely kind of just like you said, kind of took your foot off the gas pedal there a little bit, but it's not like, there's no time to panic here. Like there's no reason to panic yet over this at all whatsoever. So, and again, hopefully, like that JT Terrett isn't as much of a reliant leader that that we have to have him, but at the end of the day, I mean, that guy, even though we weren't really talking about it, again, was almost a 600 hitter. So I mean, he was putting a lot of balls in play for us. So definitely losing him definitely hurt. But
also look at the national picture real quick. Mississippi State's struggling right now.
Really?
Yeah.
I think they're 6-6.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So there's your reigning national champion. And again, different team, different year, but that's a national champion, following up their season. So everyone just pump the brakes. We're going to be fine. Now, if we're having this conversation in another month, okay, now you maybe start hitting the panic button, but plenty of time to get it turned around.
Yeah. Absolutely. Go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say, another guy we've been talking about all season and was relatively quiet, Tommy White. And I don't know if, Northeastern had a good game plan on how to pitch to him, or he was just having an off weekend or something. But didn't see a lot of production out of him either.
Yeah, it just seemed like the whole team in general. I know Lou James had a decent game for sure, but it's not like that. Like half the team was doing amazing, and then the other half was like, man. It seems like just the whole team was just kind of nah. The whole series. So, but again, definitely got a huge opportunity tomorrow against UNCG, to get back on, the upswing here. So, heading into this weekend series against Notre Dame, which will be huge. So Benjamin Orme, what's going on, brother? Thanks so much for joining us. So now we're going to talk as well about another thing that's going on tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. and that is NC State's play-in game in the ACC tournament against number 11 seed Clemson. And I know when that was first announced, Michael, on our text group, you actually said it's not a bad matchup, actually, believe it or not. So I'll give you kind of an opportunity here to kind of elaborate, because I'm definitely curious on why maybe you think that.
Well, I was just meaning kind of, that first matchup against Clemson, it was a competitive game. PJ Hall killed us inside. But I think Dewana and Gibson have gotten better since then. That was early in the season, early January, I think we played him. I don't think he'll have as big of an impact. Hopefully not. And then, I mean, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I mean, playing Virginia Tech and then in the next round is not terrible either. For us to, I don't know, maybe make a little run. That's what March is all about.
It's definitely not the worst draw you could have considering our seeding.
Yeah, that's true.
And we hang. I mean, we usually hang, other than maybe 3 or 4 games where we've gotten hey, there he is. We've gotten our tails handed to us. I mean, even I think if I looked at it correctly, I think Notre Dame, again, before getting too ahead of ourselves, but I think Notre Dame was the one after that. And we matched up okay with them. So I mean, you have to win the first one, but for as bad as our seeding is, it's not the worst draw.
Yeah.
As crazy as
Right.
that is to say. And so we'll just go back to that Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance. But I did see someone, I think one of the guy, I think Scott from Raleigh Wood or whatever, posted even if we were to win the national championship, we'd only finish 500. So that's
Wow, that's terrible.
That would be crazy.
So wait a
so,
second. I already know what we're talking about. I'm trying to figure out what sport it was.
Yeah.
yeah.
know.
But hey, at this point in this, as the season that we've had, you have to kind of have a good laugh about it, and because if not, it'll make you drink, even if you don't drink. So
Yeah, exactly.
Or
Yeah. But hey, Benjamin Ormer says, guys, are y'all ready to see the basketball team win 5 games in 5 days? And
that would be
golly,
a first.
man,
That would be an
that
ACC first.
conditioning. Well, because
Yeah.
one thing though is that I know we're gonna talk a little bit about it, but obviously Coach K's, man, that whole game, that whole thing was really weird. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but it was really weird. It was uncomfortable even.
It was wonderful just seeing him lose. Not that Carolina won, but seeing him lose. That was
it was weird because they lost. Like if they won, it'd have been a big celebration and everything. But it was just like,
well, not
Especially
only did they lose, they got beat. Like it wasn't just like
they had paraded that guy around, and I get he's like the greatest ever, but man, they have showboated him around, and he has sucked the life out of everybody just doing that and kissing up to him, and then he just gets
Laid an
totally
egg.
embarrassed, and
Yeah,
it was wonderful. But I hate who won. I hate who
I know.
won. So
Right.
I think I found it funny. I think State fans, I found a lot of State fans, more than I thought there were, are more willing to pull for Duke than they are Carolina. I'm like,
No, 100%.
I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
no. To me, it is like I can't pull for either of
wish
them.
both teams
I
could lose.
can't do it. Like I just can't. I don't even want to watch the game hardly. It makes me so mad seeing them on the TV at the same time. So I can't do it. I want the lights to go out. I'm joking here, but the bus to run over all the players' legs, and no one can play. That's what man, I can't stand. They're both the bottom 2 layers of earth. The lowest 2 layers of dirt is staying as Duke and Carolina.
Did anyone watch the ACC network version of it?
I watched at the beginning a little bit because the Kansas-Texas game was in overtime, so I switched it over there, but I didn't watch the whole thing.
And that was funny in itself, right? Everyone was on Twitter saying Bill Self had it out for Coach K, and he purposely ran it to overtime, and all the conspiracy theories that were out there was pretty funny to read. But no, I watched the ACC version of it, and they had all the interviews during the game and the Coach K cam, and I don't know, I will say this, and I think I texted it during the game to the group. Coach K was coaching. He was calling out numbers for plays. He was directing traffic, something that we don't see in Raleigh too much.
But
Man,
here,
he's
let me
still
make
got it at 75
Most
years
coaches
old.
do that, though.
But let me make my easy case for why I think I hope
No, you're not allowed.
all State fans will at least cheer for or cheer and at least have respect for Coach K, and that's obviously because that
Keats,
guy,
Coach Keats, right?
no, Coach Keats.
No, Leighton's
No,
going to make the point
is-
here, and I agree with you,
yes,
Leighton. Go ahead.
Yes,
I know
Is
where you're
that
going with this.
the amount of stuff that guy has done for the Jimmy V Foundation and the amount of support he has had for Jimmy V, and like the fact that he literally sold his 4 tickets to that game for $1 million for the Jimmy V Foundation. It's just incredible. And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's not like he's like a jerk or anything like that. I know that everybody calls him rat face and all that jazz, and whatever. We're not about to talk about the
Not
guy's
get
looks,
personal here.
but at the end of the day, I mean that guy. I mean, he's and again, I love the fact that I mean, I honestly loved it, even though it was awkward. I loved the fact where literally he went out there before everything started. Was like, listen, guys, we sucked, we blew it. Hey, y'all, shush.
This isn't part of the script.
We
This isn't
sucked.
part of the program.
Yeah, like I love that. Again, I mean, because I love a coach that's willing to own it. Like, listen, guys, we sucked. Like, we were terrible tonight. So I love that because I think if he didn't say anything, it was like a really, they're going to do this whole thing even though they just got their butts handed to them by Carolina.
Yeah.
And it was immediately like saying, like, listen, I know we sucked. I know we have to do the rest of this, but I'm letting you know I'm not happy right now. Like, so
So I think it's safe to say you can break this into two parts: Coach K, the coach, and Coach K, the human being. And so we can all respect Coach K as the human being, but the heck with him as a coach, right? Like that's Duke. Like Bacon's saying, that's Duke. We don't like Coach K, and I think he kind of is like the anti-villain of basketball. Everyone wants to hate on him, I guess, because Duke was so successful for so many years. So I think that's kind of the fun part of this conversation as well.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought it was. I just thought it was the way he did it. It was just so funny. It
was cringeworthy a little bit.
Shut up. Yeah.
It was cringeworthy, but no. So anyway, though, but yeah, no. Again, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not a fan of Duke or anything like that. Like, no. At the end of the day, I mean, yeah, I want them to lose. Just like I want Carolina to lose. But at the end of the day, if Duke and Carolina are going against each other, I'm cheering for Duke all day and twice on Tuesday. But anyway, though, so. I guess we can finally move on. So, but go ahead.
One other thing about that, the other great part about that was just every crowd shot of the students just crying. Someone dressed up like as Sesame Street characters,
that was
bawling their eyes out. That was so funny.
All their blue paint running. It was like.
But somebody made a great point though, and I do get it though. Is that think about all that those students went through for 32 days. To get into that arena. Think about the money that fans had to spend on tickets to literally just pay to watch one of the most embarrassing losses maybe in Duke basketball history. To literally lose on Coach K's last game in Cameron Indoor Stadium. You lost to Carolina.
Yeah.
Handily.
Especially after you blew them out by 20 points, the game, over in Chapel Hill. Like you dominated them over in Chapel Hill.
I'm gonna tell you what, though.
I mean, I get it.
Carolina will never let Duke fans forget that either.
Oh, no.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
They will never. You're the all-time greatest coach lost to us.
Duke could go and win 20 more national championships. North Carolina never won another, and that will still be the one zinger up, right? Like, will we beat you on Coach K night? Like they had all the players had special emblems made. Like, I mean. They did it up. They had banners everywhere, and the Blue Devil was like, "Thank you, Coach K." Like it was this tape, and I mean, it was. I mean, Celebrity came out. Like they literally.
Jerry Seinfeld was there.
Was there.
Did anybody else?
Yeah, Adam Silver. There? What's that?
Who?
Kyler Murray was there. Did y'all see that?
No, I didn't see that one.
Yeah. Kyler Murray was there. Promise you.
That's random.
Well, T.O. was there. They interviewed him.
I saw T.O. Yeah.
Scott Van Pelt was there.
Adam Silver.
The NBA commissioner was there. Yeah.
Yep.
Kyler Murray at the game. I can send y'all a picture, but he was there.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Was there.
Yeah, Dirk was there. They interviewed him on the ACC network. So, I mean, yeah, it was insane. So yeah, you're right, Macon. Carolina will always be like, well. Yeah, I don't care how many championships you win. We beat you on Coach K night, and then that ends the argument. Like, we're done.
That's true. That's a good point. So, I got to put out there my wife's comment saying you can't spell choke without a K. I'm like, ouch, that's just mean. So, anyway,
isn't there a C in South Carolina too? I don't know. You can't spell choke without South Carolina. I don't know.
Without C.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so I'm interested about Ted Carreras' comment here saying wrestling 4 conference championships in a row. What other 2 teams can boast that? Hint: it's not Penn State, Arizona State, or Cornell. One just snuck past you in baseball. Hint: not salty. I actually don't know who's actually else has done that. So I'm interested if you let me know who that is, Ted. I'd appreciate it. And then he also said, "Are you ready to see the Pack on the podium in Detroit?" And I'll tell you, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think we're going to get first place, but I mean, I'd be happy about it.
We can get some individual ones for sure.
But get some, So because we've never won 2 individual championships the same year, and I definitely think between Trent and Tariq specifically, that those 2 guys should be favored to win. But also too, like a Hayden. Ed Scott, he's been super impressive this year. And again, keep in mind that Ed Scott, he's a redshirt freshman, folks. He's a redshirt freshman. He just beat Austin O'Connor, who won the national
I
championship
was gonna
last year.
say that was a huge upset.
That was a huge upset. So again, the future's bright for that program, folks. Ted said Campbell,
Campbell.
and Missouri. Interesting. Very
So,
interesting.
I don't want to rain on Ted's parade, and that's a great stat, but the wrestling is probably a lot different in those conferences and then the ACC
For sure.
compared to the Big Ten. I mean, the Big Ten is the cream of the crop when it comes to wrestling. But regardless, it's still an awesome. Like, I mean, anytime you're winning championships, I mean, that's fantastic. So,
for sure.
And we only have 6 teams in the ACC. Again, I don't know how many the Big Ten has, but I bet it's probably pretty close to all 10.
Yeah, absolutely. So and
that's awesome.
Cross-eyed, Ted. Ed Scott can stick. So for those who are listening, Ed Scott can. Ted said Ed Scott can stick Godzilla if he gets a headlock. Yeah, no, Ed Scott, he's a beast. I'm telling you. So anyway, so Cross-eyed Cobra said, personally, I've met Coach K, and I will 100% pull for him before pulling for the cheaters. Absolutely. And then he points out about Jimmy V and Coach K's relationship, which was absolutely amazing. And then to be fair though, Duke didn't have Manny Bates though, and I do agree. If Duke had Manny Bates, that would have been a game changer, no doubt.
All right, that's the comment of the night right there.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway though, so anyway, so just basically to put in. So again, there's a lot of opportunity there. So it should be an exciting national championship for them. But so let me ask you guys now, because I know we've kind of talked about this question 2 other times and kind of jumping back, unfortunately, to a topic we've already discussed. But I wanted to ask this question. So would you guys say, now that we've won the ACC championship in women's basketball, do your expectations change at all in terms of what you would define as kind of your bar for the season? Like, does it take it a step further?
You've met your first goal.
Okay.
No. I think I think the question is, what is the bar? If you remember what the bar was, what you said, what is the bar for you guys?
Well,
I'd be curious to know that, because
you got to have
I think
mine is bar is anything less than Elite 8 is inexcusable to me.
See, I disagree. I said final. I say Final Four.
I think I said Final Four too.
But my thing is though, like, Final Four is like a baseline. If we came away with the Elite 8, I'd be like, okay, it's an Elite 8. That's pretty good. But it's like, I think Final Four is like, that is to me the standard. I'm like, I'm not saying that Elite 8 is the standard. I'm just saying, like, you've advanced further than you did last season with a better team. But my thing is also partly too, you're not going to have a better team maybe next year. So it's now or I'll say now or never, but it's kind of like that. You're going to have a good team, but just you won't have Kanane. So
the expectation will be different next year.
Yeah, I think it depends on, if it is Elite 8, we lose in the Elite 8 to, like a really good team in a very close game. I mean, you can't really complain about that, but
and that's assuming everybody's healthy too.
Exactly. And but if it's a team, we should have beat, and it's a lower seed that somehow makes a run, and then we lose to them, then it kind of feels like a disappointment. But if you're running to UConn, who's a very good 2 seed, and lose to them in a close game in the Elite 8, it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Now, the only reason why I say for me, so the furthest any NC State women's team has ever gone in the NCAA tournament is Final Four. Yao took us there one time. And I truly would say, I mean, I'm not saying it's clear that it's like, oh, there's no doubt about it. But I think that with the team we have this year, you can make the argument this probably maybe is definitely in the conversation, but probably is.
Definitely.
Hey, Macon, I don't need your input. Let me make my point, dadgummit.
That sounds like
that was a lot of probability there.
that's like Anchorman. It works 60%, 100% of the time.
100% time, 60% it works every time. And he goes, that doesn't make any sense.
Please, good sir.
Anyway, so
sorry.
Is probably the best team that we've had in women's basketball from all around perspective, from a talent, from an experience, from a depth. And so I think that this team should go further, at least than any team has ever gone before. So at least making it to our first ever national championship game, I think is very, very reasonable for this team.
Yep.
And especially because and the reason why I say did what happened in the AC tournament change it all? The reason why I say that is because now that you've seen some definite weakness in Louisville, you kind of see that, okay, like, there's that not necessarily saying that knocks Louisville out of the conversation. But first of all, I do want to mention, though, that I definitely kind of took a little bit of offense, like not like that I was offended, but like from a, like, whoa, I don't really like, is that Miami's head coach's comment about saying how she told the Louisville coach, that by losing like that they're probably going to go win it all now. And it's like, listen,
I think that's just coach speak.
Right.
But yeah,
well, but
I'm not mad about that. But yeah.
Well, but again, because my point being is that, first of all, it's like, I don't know. To me, I kind of.
What do you say? Good job, loser. Like, I mean,
well, I wouldn't have said anything about that. I would just let it be. Yeah. Well, I just wouldn't have said that anything like that at all. I mean, I mean, especially because again, you still have to face NC State.
Great game.
And, yeah. No, but go ahead, Michael.
It's also easy to say something when you say something like that when you just beat that team. So
yeah,
it's like, yeah, you guys will be fine.
I mean, you don't want to kick them while they're down. I mean,
yeah.
Just don't say anything. Yeah, that's my point, though. Just don't say anything.
It's an interesting comment.
Yeah. It's an interesting comment. That's all I'm saying.
You do the Mark Godfrey to Coach K, where you shake their hand and slap the butt, and then you just walk on.
Yeah, that's the verbal equivalent of that.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm just more saying it really because, again, I mean, to me, that I took that as basically she's saying that Louisville's better than us, which I'm like, come on now, seriously, you can't say that. Come on. So, but also too the fact that like everybody's saying, oh, they're going to bounce back after this. It's like, well, they didn't bounce back after we came back on from 99.9%. So why? So all of a sudden now this time they're going to bounce back. It's like, come on. So, yeah.
The one thing I wanted to say about the NCAA women's tournament is this is going to be the last year where the top 16 host the first two rounds. Next year they're going to true pods like they do in the men's tournament. So if you've ever wanted to go to the NCAA tournament for the women and you're a state fan, try to go get your tickets this year because next year it could be potentially harder to travel to the site. So let's make sure we get all those tickets sold for our fans, and we want a packed Reynolds to cheer on our ladies. And with any luck, I will be down there to support them because I don't want any fans other than what's required to let them into the building.
Would it be up there then? Could it be Connecticut, right?
Well, what do you mean? For the first two rounds, it'll be at Reynolds.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Next year it'll go to a true pod. Like, they could be stuck in Orlando for the first and second round.
Right.
So the women's game is trying to get more.
That'll be nice for me.
Bigger. Yeah. Well, yeah. But so I wanted to throw that out there for anyone that's ever wanted to go to the tournament and hasn't done it yet. This may be your best chance.
Good point.
To do that.
Good point.
Here.
Absolutely. Here. All right. So touching on a couple other topics here before we wrap up here in these last 10 minutes. So first of all, shout out I got to definitely give is to softball. Right now for those state fans who haven't been keeping up or don't know, they're 18-3 right now. 18-3, and they just won their first ACC series against Syracuse, 2-1. So again, it's not necessarily like, oh man, go ahead and get your, Women's College World Series, t-shirt or tickets. No, not going to say that, but definitely saying that, I mean, it's at the end of the day, the facts are the facts that this has been definitely by far the best start in program history. And now that we've definitely because definitely the teams we've played so far before Syracuse weren't necessarily the best, but even still, just like we're saying earlier, with baseball and softball, things happen. I mean, at the end of the day, there's bad games or like a pitcher has an off day, and that can really just put you in a bad spot. But to get through all that and beat Syracuse in a series is okay, that's interesting. Now, yeah, it's a good litmus test for sure. And now obviously this coming weekend we play at Duke, which Duke is definitely one of the better teams in the ACC. So I think that'll be a true test. Like, okay, if we're top ACC caliber, we're going to know this weekend, but after this coming weekend, which side of that conversation we're on for sure. That's kind of my original thoughts on that.
Is Duke ranked right now? I don't know.
I know
preseason
preseason wise they were getting a lot of love as one of the more likely going to be one of the top teams in the conference. And because I think actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're number 13. I think they're top 15. I know that they're top 15. I think last rankings I remember correctly was top. I think they were number 13 in the country. So yeah, so great test for sure in a 3-game series at Duke.
I think it goes back to what we talked about. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I just found it updated. So from 3-1, so yeah, there'll probably be new rankings tomorrow. But from last week, Duke was number 9. So yeah,
wow.
They're a very good team.
That's a very good litmus test. But
yeah,
I think it goes back to what we were talking about. I think either a couple episodes ago or live streams. It's just it's about programs on the rise, right? And I think softball is one of those that we kind of mentioned that they're on that trajectory. Within the next couple of years, you could probably see them, making appearances regularly. Now, we could get one this year, obviously, with the great start we've had. But what you're looking for is that consistency, right? So, yeah, great, you make it one year, but can you follow that up with appearance after appearance? So, they're definitely one of those programs within the university that we're going to talk about and keep watching.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So yeah, definitely make sure to stay in touch with them. Wolfpack Nation is again, hopefully, big things on the run here for Coach Patrick Swift and that team for sure. And then got to talk a little bit more about women's tennis here as well, because I mean, then they right now, for those who don't know, for some reason, they're ranked as the number 2 team in the country right now. And I mean, I can list the top 25 wins right now. So they've beaten number 23 Princeton, number 10 Ohio State. They beat number 21 Tennessee, number 14 Auburn, number 3 Georgia. They lost number 2 Carolina. They beat number 3 Texas, number 14 Miami, and they're about to face number 15 Wake Forest. So I mean, it's kind of like South Carolina women's almost to a point where it's like, okay, they have beaten so many ranked teams, and I think that you're kind of looking at that same kind of resume for women's tennis, going, oh my gosh, like they've been through, I mean, fire and back, and they have come out on top. I mean, we're 14-1 right now. They've only lost to one team, and that was number 2 Carolina. So, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, like it's tough to even wrap your head around, like if we were having this kind of season, like for like any other sport, like like a men's basketball or women's basketball, or like a football, it's like, oh my gosh, like we'd be freaking jumping off the walls. But so that's why gotta mention it, like they deserve all the hype and then some right now.
Yep, absolutely,
definitely.
That's one game of sport I would like to go out and watch myself, because I mean, tennis is pretty fun to watch anyways, and when you're having a team like this, having a historic season, we should all go out and support them more. I don't know how. I got to figure out how to go get tickets, if that's even a thing. But
it is. If you go to gopack.com and click on the tennis under sports, it has the schedule, and there's a link there for tickets. So it's definitely a thing. I wish that they would just find a way to get. I know you can kind of stream some of them, but a lot of them are like behind paywalls, and I don't know. Like, if I'm going to pay money, I want to go to state. I don't want to go to some corporate greedy, whatever. Right. So
streaming,
yeah. So, but no, I would definitely. I love going to support all of our teams. In fact, that's one of my goals, is to make it to all of our sports teams within one, cycle.
Calendar,
I guess.
Yeah, cycle, whatever.
Calendar. Yeah, whatever you want to sports cycle year. But
yeah.
Hey, we only got a couple minutes, but I wanted to ask this question because I saw it on Twitter, and I was actually talking with someone last night at wrestling. What are your thoughts about Boo not being there for wrestling last night? I know he was in Greensboro, but he didn't make the trip down to Charlottesville. And the reason I will say that you can make an argument that he should have been there was, obviously, Commissioner Jim Phillips was there to present the team the trophy, and he was in Greensboro as well. So do you think Boo should get a pass on that, or like what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean,
we lost Macon's audio.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, I think it depends upon what perspective you're looking at. I think if you're the coach, it's a big deal, kind of, unless there's some sort of communication beforehand that says, "Hey, I won't be able to be there for X reason." I don't know what he had going on.
He could have had a very valid reason, right?
Right. But my thing is, I'm kind of thinking like it's generally probably like, okay, does the AD need to be there? I don't think so, but it's
No.
when you think about it in a professional standpoint. I
mean, he was there for the women, so just
you should want the leadership present. You should want your boss there, essentially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the president of the Wolfpack Club was there.
I don't think fans we're like, I don't care. But if you're the coach, I think it can kind of matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing I will say is that, I mean, I kind of look at obviously Boo's been at wrestling matches. I mean, it's not like, Boo doesn't support wrestling or anything like that whatsoever.
That's very true.
I mean, but the one thing I will say is, definitely, I saw Boo, he was at the women's game versus the first game against Florida State. I'll bet you probably he was at all three games.
He was there yesterday.
Well, but even on Saturday is one meeting as well against Virginia Tech. Was he there? I don't know. I know he was there on Sunday, but I guess my point being is, at the end of the day, I think Michael said best. At the end of the day, we don't know. It's not like it's a requirement per his job description that he has to be at every single one. As long as he knows, as long as the guys know and the coaching staff knows that he has their back, which I have no reason to believe whatsoever that wrestling doesn't think that or doesn't know that, then that's all that matters at the end of the day. It's and everybody says too, like, yeah, Debbie would have been every single one. It's like, well, yeah, but again, at the end of the day, we don't know. He's not Debbie. Yeah.
Everyone wants to compare Debbie because we all thought she was great. But I personally don't look at it as this like shame on him for not being there, but I think it's matter how you look at it. Whose perspective are you looking from? I think mostly if you're Populizio, I think you'd be kind of like, well, he went there for basketball. Yeah. Why isn't he there for wrestling?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, but then why wasn't he at men's tennis? Why wasn't he at women's tennis?
Boo Corrigan could be jokingly, he could be watching this and be like, these guys are a bunch of idiots. Like, I told him I wasn't going to be there and we were square. So, like,
right.
Yep.
Exactly. That's why I don't think it's a big deal.
Yep.
No, I agree. So, but anyway, so Greg, I'm curious. That was a good question. So I'm curious if you saw any other Twitter questions on there we can discuss with these last minute or two.
No, that's all I saw. And again, this wasn't a Bash Boo, live stream. He's already had his detractors.
And it still isn't.
And no, I mean, it was just a question. I thought like, hey, that's a fair question to ask. But yeah, we definitely don't have access to Boo's calendar, so like we don't know.
Yeah.
But again, if the ACC commissioner can make the effort, then you could potentially make the argument for the AD. And granted, he's one person, and he's I'm sure the ACC commissioner has a better travel budget than the AD at NC State, so there's that factor. And we don't know if he's got meetings on Monday that conflict. Like, you just don't know. But
yeah,
well, and especially too, because it's not. I would say it's definitely more necessarily like it's exactly in Jim Phillips' job description, but I would say it's. I mean, the ACC commissioner should hand the ACC trophy to the ACC champion. But it's not necessarily a requirement per se, or even I would say more in the job description that Boo needs to be at every single match per se, or whatever it is. That's the only other point I would make is that with that as well. Anyway, though,
unfortunately, he gets a bum rap because of the whole College World Series thing, and so I think that's part of why he gets the heat that he does, fairly or unfairly. It's out there. It's not for me to justify, but it is one of those things that like the fan base has already got a bitter taste in their mouth because of the whole Omaha thing. So you would think that and again, he doesn't have to justify anything to us, other than
Absolutely
we
not.
do donate. But we are the ones donating money to the programs. So
right.
And I will say that he didn't have any. People are like, well, he's not active on Twitter. Well, he's just not active on Twitter. I mean, he didn't congratulate one over the other. Like, he didn't mention either on his Twitter feed. So it's just things that I look at on Twitter. It's just kind of.
I want to add this too about Boo Corrigan. People need to give him his fair share to what he has done right. Because that whole football thing with UCLA, he went and tried his hardest to get opponents, and that was not an easy task for him doing what he had to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there was some impressive.
I had mentioned
players too.
Yeah.
Players were speaking out about what Boo's doing for the football team.
I think now NC State for the whole Chandler Zavala thing, where Chandler wants to be able to play another season. State,
Yeah, that's
I
right.
think has gotten him legal counsel to fight NCAA on this. Like, Boo had a bad PR moment that was a big deal, and it was early on, bad taste in everybody's mouth. But I think we also need to give him credit where he's done the right thing, and he has done, I won't say above and beyond, but he's done his due diligence, and he's done it to where you could see it mattered. And I think because what came across, like, almost like, well, baseball really seemed like we're just going to roll over the NCAA. Well, he's not rolling over. He gets it. So I think we kind of need
a lot of he does is behind the scenes.
We're square with him. Yeah, we're square with him. That was a bad PR moment, and let's just move on.
Yeah. And again, like I didn't mean to talk over to you, but he does so much behind the scenes that the average fan has no idea what he's doing, right? He only makes his remarks when it's necessary. But like I had mentioned before in one of our streams, that he was the one that was instrumental in us not having any noon games last year for football. I mean, and that's and people can be mad about that, like, well, but the fan base is going to be fickle no matter what, right? You're like, oh, we get too many early games, or we get too many late games. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, people. So, like, let the man do his job. We're doing great in athletics. This is a great time to be a State fan. Take a chill pill.
Yeah.
Why are you so mad, Greg? Why are you what's your problem, Greg? What's your problem, Greg? Why don't you like State athletics, Greg? What's your problem with red and white?
My problem is with their fans sometimes. It's not the teams themselves.
Why don't you like Michael and Leighton, Greg? Come on. We all know what it's all about now.
But
go eat something.
Go ahead, Michael.
I was gonna say on that note, I saw Fred Demarest tweeted out yesterday. Since November 2019, that's 10 ACC titles for NC State, which is the most in the conference.
Well, yeah, that speaks a lot.
Yeah.
And then boom, boo, yeah. And then two other points I want to make though too is that, first of all, another thing that Boo has done a lot with is that he was actually a huge he had a lot of involvement with bringing on Tim Beck as well. I mean, he was basically a part of the conversations with Dave Doran to bring on Tim Beck, which, I mean, again, was a huge hire for us for sure to bring in a name like Tim Beck. And also too, on top of it as well, that again, I'll say this again, that, with the whole Omaha thing, Pac-9 thing, is that, I mean, this guy was on as our athletic director for not years, he was on for months. And so, I mean, basically like put it like, just kind of put it as like kind of a metaphor. Like, imagine like, getting your bus driver, license, whatever you want to call it, and then getting you handed your first bus, and then, or your second bus, whatever you want to call it. And then like halfway down a mile down the road, the engine like falls out of the bottom of the truck. All four tires pop, and all the passengers are screaming at you going, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" And it's like,
yeah,
what? I'm just trying to figure it out. I mean, because again, at the end of the day, being the AD at Army, let's be real, is a lot different in terms of expectations, in terms of budgeting, in terms of fan support than it is NC State. Like, and that's not a hate on Army. Just in the day, let's be real, priorities are a lot different in Army than it is NC State. So go ahead, Greg.
What was that movie where that stat that you just read out from Fred Dermis? Like, the 10 championships. What is that movie where he goes, "Are you not entertained?" Like, what was that? Gladiator. Was it Gladiator? Yeah, I thought it might have been Gladiator. But I feel like that's our fan base, right? Like, are you not entertained? You've got 10 ACC championships in approximately 3 years.
If you can't be happy right now, then you're not going to ever be happy. Like, I get basketball's down, and basketball has skewed the emotions.
Yep.
But if you can't find a good competitive winning right now to go watch for, and it's not satisfying, there's something I can't help you.
Yep. Well, and because one other thing I was say is go ahead. We'll go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say I find it hard to believe that there's people who the only sport they enjoy is basketball. You can find another sport.
Something.
Well, and the other point I want to make as well is that cross country was a huge win because it was our third national championship in our in-state athletics program ever, if I'm not mistaken. Well, between women's tennis, women's basketball, maybe wrestling, I mean, you could possibly get another national championship, which means you could literally get 2 national championships in the same year. When, I mean, before this year, we had 2 ever in in-state history. So again, it's just that I think that really screams a lot of volume as well. So on top of that, stab 10 NCAA championships since 2019. So, and And then Cross Eye Cobra says, you have to remember though, 70% of fans only care about football and/or men's basketball. And again, I get it. And again, that's part of the reason why we wanted to start this, was really to give a lot of attention to, because even like gymnastics, who we haven't even talked about, they're a top 25 program. And actually, Kim Landers and them, they actually got the third highest score yesterday that they've ever had in the history of NC State gymnastics yesterday. So again, it just shows a lot about gymnastics is on the upward trajectory as well. And because again, another thing that stands out to me is Kim Landers. She has like 150 followers on Twitter, which I know that like, Twitter followers isn't everything, but it just talks about the following that gymnastics has compared to others, So, that's another thing that stands out to me. But anyway, though, so all right, guys. Well, again, unfortunately we have to end this eventually. But again, hope y'all enjoyed this. And again, obviously we got baseball tomorrow against UNCG. We got the first game for NC State men's basketball against Clemson tomorrow at 4:30. And then, again, it's got a lot going on here, but again, make sure to stay tuned here. And also too, again, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's free to do, and make sure you don't miss out whenever we release any new content. Give this video a like, so that way the YouTube algorithm puts this video and all of our other videos in front of more NC State fans. And also too, if you haven't already, make sure to give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram at Tuffy Talk Now. So with that being said, always, hey, go Pack.